We know from 7:59 to 8:16 a.m., Holly's phone was hitting off of the Darden Road Tower, which is her home tower, where she'd be hitting off of typically when she's using her phone at her family residence. Her phone is traveling north, and from 8:17 to 8:59, it starts hitting off of the Shiloh Road Tower. This is the tower that encompasses the area where her remains were eventually found, in the exact area where Marshall Walker had placed her phone as having stopped for half an hour before traveling on. The thought being that she was killed in that area, and then the assailant took her phone and traveled south, where her phone hits briefly off the Cox Road Tower, and then ends up 925 at the Parson Road Tower, in the area where her lunchbox and notebook was eventually found by Marshall Walker. Now,
Okay. How does that correlate to Zach's phone records? These are Zach's records. What do we know from Zach's records about the same time that Holly's phone was traveling that route?
yeah, so we have Zach's cell phone records, and it includes the cell location and the cell phone. You can see here the cell phone towers that are being hit off of, and the geolocation data. And I have up here, we pull up just this relevant time period. And up here on the right, just for comparison, as a reminder, the towers that Holly's cell phone is hitting off of that morning. Now, you have to be active on your phone to get this data. And so lucky for us, Zach was active on his phone. We see at 8:35 a.m., that's the first time that morning his phone is active, with a call with his grandpa, Dick. And then 8:53 and 8:55, he starts trying to get a hold of Jason Autry. At this time, his phone is hitting off of the Cox 3 and bouncing Cox 3, Cox 2 cell phone sections. So that was his home area where at his residence, his phone would typically bounce off of, as it was that morning. And then we go down after 8:59, since we do have data for Holly, up until 9:25. We look at what we have. Now we have 9:10, he's Cox 2. And then by 10:03 a.m., consistent with what we would expect from his alibi, he's moving over to the Birdsong Towers. So comparing that with Holly's phone, for a brief time, Holly's phone was passing through a different area of the tower where Zach's home tower existed, but at no point were their phones ever in the same area, same location. They never crossed paths.